A count came to fire his maid, but seeing his children sad and hungry, he uncovered a shocking truth. Before we begin this beautiful period romance story, tell me in the comments where you're listening from. I love knowing where you're joining me from. Arthur Harrington did not bang his fist on the desk. He wanted to. The urge pulsed in his hand as he folded the crumpled paper again, the ink of the accusations already smudged where his thumb had pressed. Repeated insubordination, wastefulness in the kitchens, familiarity with the children, possible theft of provisions. He read the phrases once more in the careful handwriting of Mrs. Whitfield, the housekeeper, with a neat note added underneath in Lady Beatrice's precise, slanting script. My dear Arthur, such behavior ought not to be tolerated. For the sake of order, you must make an example. He let out a slow breath, staring past the edge of his desk toward the tall window of his study. November light lay over the park beyond, pale and thin. He did not truly see it. His mind was counting, measuring, weighing. It had been less than 3 months since the new maid had entered his house. Emily Carter, he murmured under his breath. A plain name. A quiet girl, if he recalled correctly. Brown hair, always neat. A willingness to curtsy deeper than necessary, as if she understood that Harrington Hall tolerated no laxity. He had hardly noticed her after the first week. That, he reminded himself, was as it should be. Servants did their work, masters did theirs. Yet 3 complaints in as many days were not to be ignored. The door opened without a knock. Only one person in the house would risk that. Lady Beatrice glided in, her skirts whispering against the carpet, her chin slightly lifted. "Still with that letter, Arthur?" she asked, closing the door with a soft click. "You have a tendency to brood over things far beneath your station." He folded the paper and laid it flat. "If the management of my house is beneath my station, Beatrice," he said, "I fear I have been misinformed about the duties of a man with an estate and 2 children." She smiled, a little too indulgently. "Of course, dear cousin. I only mean that you distress yourself unnecessarily. A maid is a maid. If she is troublesome, she must go. There is no need for agonies of conscience." "I am not in agony," he said shortly. She tilted her head. "You are hesitating. Mrs. Whitfield is quite alarmed. She says the girl grows bold, that she questions orders, that she has taken to slipping into the nursery as if she were a nursemaid, not a scullery creature." Arthur's jaw tightened. "Where are the children?" "With Miss Carter, the governess," Beatrice replied, as if reminding him. "They are working at their French, or pretending to. Henry is restless today. I shall look in on them later." He hesitated. Some small unease stirred in his chest, but he pushed it away. "They are well?" he asked. Beatrice blinked, surprised at the question. "Of course they are well. They are children. They grumble about bread when they desire cake. You indulge them too much, Arthur, even at a distance. You must allow the staff to be firm." He nodded, more to end the subject than because he agreed. "And this maid," he said. "What precisely is she accused of beyond the words on this page?" Beatrice stepped closer, as if happy to elaborate. "Emily Carter is overly sentimental," she said. "Mrs. Whitfield told me she weeps over tales of orphans and charity cases. Absurd. She claims the kitchen wastes food and that some is thrown away, as if we could feed every hungry creature in Yorkshire. Yesterday she was found stirring a pot that was not hers to touch, muttering something about 'for the children.' When corrected, she was impertinent. She acts as though she alone knows what is right." "Impertinent how?" "She questioned Mrs. Whitfield's instructions." "That is enough." Arthur looked at the folded letter again. Impertinence, sentimentality, waste. These were annoyances, not crimes. But there was also that other line. Possible theft of provisions. "We are not reduced," he said slowly. "The accounts are strained, but not so dire that the children must be rationed like soldiers on campaign." Beatrice's smile thinned. "We are not reduced," she agreed. "Yet, which is why you must uphold discipline. If the servants think they may help themselves or rearrange your house according to their feelings, then soon enough the waste will be real. Besides, Arthur, if you tolerate this from one maid, what message does it send to the rest?" He had no answer for that, except the one he had been trained to give since youth. "My house will not be ruled from below," he said. "Precisely," Beatrice said. "You will dismiss her today." He rose, pushing his chair back, the decision settled around him like an old coat. Very well, he said. Send word to Mrs. Whitfield that I will deal with the matter myself. Beatrice's brows rose. You? Personally? Yes. If a servant is to be turned out under my roof, he said, I shall at least be present when she is told why. She hesitated, reading his face, then inclined her head. As you wish. It will do the staff no harm to see you take such matters in hand. It reminds them who is master. When she had gone, the study felt colder. Arthur picked up the letter once more, then set it aside. He glanced by habit at the small portrait on the mantelpiece. A woman's face, gentle and composed, looked back at him. Rose, his wife, gone 3 years. She had never liked dismissals. She had always argued, always pleaded for another chance. He had indulged her more than he admitted then. Now there was no one to stand between the staff and his temper. Sentiment does no one any favours, he murmured, as if answering the portrait. Discipline does. He left the study and stepped into the corridor. The house was quiet in that particular way of well-run houses, where work is done but sounds are muffled. A faint clink from the distant kitchens, the dull murmur of voices behind closed doors, the ticking of the long clock in the hall. As he walked, a maid he did not know well flattened herself against the wall and dipped a curtsy. He barely noticed. His mind was preparing the speech he would give. He would be firm but just. He would remind the girl of her place, of the opportunity she had squandered. He might, if he felt generous, ask Mrs. Whitfield to find her another position somewhere distant, where her faults might trouble someone else. He told himself this was kindness. He crossed the great hall and turned toward the servants' wing. The air changed subtly there. Floors were plainer, walls less adorned. The smell of coal and cooking grew stronger. Voices were nearer, though still subdued when they sensed his approach. A young footman saw him and nearly dropped the tray he was carrying. My lord, the boy stammered, then remembered. My lord, I beg your pardon, my lord. The hall boy should not have let you come this way unannounced. That will do, Arthur said. Where is Mrs. Whitfield? In the still room, my lord. Shall I fetch her? No, I will find her. Where is the maid Emily Carter at this moment? The boy swallowed. Likely in the servants' dining room, my lord. It is the children's tea hour, and Mrs. Whitfield said— He broke off suddenly, colour draining from his face. Mrs. Whitfield said what? Arthur asked. Nothing, my lord, only that the maid ought to take her own tea then as well before returning to duties. Arthur let it pass. The boy looked as if he might faint if pressed further. Go about your work, he said. He moved on down the narrow passage that led to the servants' dining room. The door at the end was half open. He heard a murmur of low voices, a child's laugh quickly smothered, the faint clatter of a spoon in a bowl. He felt his mouth tighten. Now he would have to play the stern lord, in the midst of their chatter and crumbs. He did not relish it, but it would be done. He pushed the door open. What he saw stopped him on the threshold. The servants' dining room was small and plain, with a long scrubbed table and mismatched chairs. Only 3 people were there. Emily Carter stood at the hearth, a ladle in her hand, a pot of something steaming gently over the small fire. At the table, side by side, sat Henry and Charlotte, his children. Henry's legs dangled from the bench, not quite reaching the floor. Charlotte's feet were tucked beneath her. Both had bowls before them, half emptied, their spoons still hovering in mid-air. Their faces were flushed with warmth, but beneath the colour, their cheeks seemed thinner than he remembered. Their eyes, when they turned to him, were large and startled. "Papa!" Charlotte cried. Both children scrambled from the bench so fast that one of the bowls tipped, spilling a bit of stew onto the table. Emily gasped and instinctively reached to steady it, then froze, her eyes fixed on the man in the doorway. Arthur's hand fell away from the handle. He stepped fully into the room, his gaze moving from his children to the maid, then to the pot on the fire. "What is the meaning of this?" he asked, his voice low. Henry and Charlotte crashed into him, small arms wrapping around his waist, nearly knocking him off balance. "Papa, do not be angry," Henry pleaded, looking up. "Please, you must not send Emily away." Charlotte pressed her face against his coat. "She did not mean to be wicked, Papa," she sobbed. "She only wanted us to eat." The words struck him strangely. "Eat?" he repeated. "You have meals in the nursery. You have your governess. Why in heaven's name are you eating here? With the servants?" The children looked at each other, then up at him again. Charlotte's lip trembled. "Because there is food here," she whispered. Silence fell, thick and uneasy. Arthur looked at Emily. She was very pale, but she kept her back straight. Her hands, red from the heat and work, gripped the ladle so tightly it trembled. "Answer me," he said quietly. "What is happening here?" Emily swallowed. "My lord," she said, her voice barely above a whisper, "I beg your pardon. I did not intend to offend. The children were hungry. I only—" "Hungry?" he cut in sharply. "Are they never fed in the nursery?" Henry spoke up quickly, as if afraid Emily would be blamed. "We are fed," he said. "Sometimes. Trays come. Bread, mostly. And broth. That is more water than anything else. But sometimes the tray does not come at all. And when it does, there is so little. And Charlotte says she is cold and my stomach hurts and—" Charlotte burst into tears again. "I am sorry, Papa," she sobbed. "We tried not to complain. Nurse said we must not disturb you." Arthur's heart gave an odd, painful twist. He looked down at his children. Their clothes hung looser than he remembered. Their wrists were thinner. He could see under the tears the shadows beneath their eyes. "How long has this been so?" he asked. No one answered at first. "How long?" His voice sharpened. Emily took a breath. "A few weeks, my lord," she said. "Perhaps longer. I cannot say for certain. I have not been here very many months. But when I came, I saw they did not eat enough. The trays sent to the nursery were modest. Lately they have been worse. 2 nights this week the supper tray did not arrive at all. The children told me they went to bed with nothing." Arthur stared at her. "And you did not think to inform Mrs. Whitfield, or Lady Beatrice, or myself?" Emily's eyes filled, but she did not look away. "I did speak to Mrs. Whitfield, my lord," she said. "She told me I was foolish, that the children must learn restraint, that the doctor recommended it. She said the house could not afford waste, and that the children are far too indulged. She said you yourself insisted they must have only what is strictly necessary because the estate is under strain." Arthur stared at her, then at the children. "Did she now?" he said slowly. "She invoked my name?" "Yes, my lord," Emily said. Henry tugged at his coat. "Nurse said so too," he added. "She said you were very angry about expenses, and that we must not expect treats any longer. She said we must not bother you. She said—" He stopped abruptly, as if fearing he had said too much. Arthur's spine felt as if it had turned to ice. "Emily," he said, "this food, where did you get it?" Her cheeks flushed. "From the kitchen, my lord," she said. "But not by stealing. I promise you, not by theft. There is food left from the main dinners, bits of meat that would go into broth or be thrown away, vegetables trimmed off, crusts of bread. I asked cook if I might have them. She grumbled, but she let me. No one else wanted them. I boiled them together. It is nothing fine, but it is warm, and it fills their stomachs. I could not bear to see them cry from hunger." "You fed them without permission," he said. "Someone had to," she replied softly. The words hung in the air, simple, terrible. Henry looked up at his father, eyes suddenly fierce. "She did nothing wrong," he said. "She is kind. She tucks us in when nurse is not there. She brings us bread when we have none. Please, Papa, do not dismiss her. We will be good. We will not make a fuss, only let her stay." Charlotte nodded furiously, her small fingers digging into his coat. "We like her better than Nurse," she hiccuped. "Nurse says we are selfish. Emily says we are growing." Arthur felt as if the floor had tilted. He had known in an abstract way that he had been distant, that his grief had sent him into ledgers and letters and long rides across the estate, leaving the care of his children to others. But he had never imagined this. Hunger. In his house. Under his roof. While he signed checks for repairs and charities and gentlemen's clubs, he barely attended. He searched for a reasonable explanation. "Miss Carter, the governess," he said slowly. "She is responsible for their lessons, not their meals, but she must have seen something. Has she said nothing?" Emily hesitated. "I cannot answer for Miss Carter's mind, my lord," she said. "She takes her meals separately. She arrives at the nursery only for lessons. When I spoke to her, she said it was not her place to interfere with household arrangements. She told me that the nursery is under Mrs. Whitfield's management, and that if Mrs. Whitfield says this is your wish, then so it must be." "My wish," Arthur repeated. He almost laughed, except that nothing in him wanted to laugh. Charlotte pulled at his sleeve. "Papa," she whispered, "did you truly say we must go without? Did you tell them we are too much trouble and cost too much to feed?" The question was so direct, so guileless, that it cut through every layer of dignity he had built around himself. He knelt down without thinking, bringing his face level with hers. Her eyes, wet and wide, searched his. "No," he said. "No, my child, I never said that, not once." "Then why did they say so?" Henry demanded. Arthur straightened slowly, his gaze moving from the children to the slight figure at the hearth, to the pot of humble stew, to the cracked bowls on the table. For the first time in years, Arthur Harrington felt truly afraid, because someone in his own house had dared to starve his children and hide behind his name, and he did not yet know who it was. Arthur did not answer at once. The children waited, clutching at him, as if the force of their small hands could hold him to some decision. He looked at Emily. "Leave us a moment," he said. Her fingers tightened on the ladle. "As you wish, my lord." She moved to set the pot back on the hook, wiped her hands on her apron and stepped toward the door. Charlotte broke away from him. "No," she cried. "Do not send her away." "I am not sending her anywhere," Arthur said. "I am asking her to wait outside while I speak with you." Emily paused, hand on the latch. "I will be just here, little miss," she said softly. "I shall not go far." Charlotte's shoulders eased a little. Henry glared at everything in general. Emily slipped out. The door closed. Arthur turned back to his children. "Look at me," he said. They lifted their faces. "You will tell me the truth," he said. "All of it. No fear of nurse, no fear of Mrs. Whitfield, no fear of anyone. Only the truth." Henry swallowed. "Yes, Papa." Arthur drew them back to the bench and sat opposite, his hands flat on the table. "When did the meals begin to change?" he asked. "Do not guess. Think." Henry frowned. After the summer, I think," he said. "When Lady Beatrice began to live here all the time. Before that we had jam on Sundays, and cook would send us pastries if there were any left after dessert." Nurse grumbled, "But she let us have them. This autumn, there was less." Charlotte nodded. "Sometimes only bread and weak tea," she said. "Nurse said sweets were bad for us. Then she said we must eat plain like the poor so we would learn gratitude. She said you had decided it." Arthur's jaw flexed. "And the nights without supper?" "Last week," Henry said. "Twice, and once the week before. We told Nurse. She said there was no more and we must go to bed. Charlotte cried, and she said crybabies did not deserve supper at all." Arthur felt his hand curl into a fist on the table. "Did you ever see full trays taken away untouched?" "Yes," Charlotte whispered. "Once. The footman brought one, and Mrs. Whitfield met him in the corridor. She said the nursery could do without and sent it away. I watched from the door. She did not know I was looking." Henry added quickly, "Another time I saw Nurse eating cold chicken in her room. She said it was her right because she worked hard, and that children do not appreciate good food." Arthur closed his eyes for a moment. "And when you tried to tell me?" he asked. Both children fell quiet. "We wrote a note once," Henry admitted. "Miss Carter made us practice our writing. We thought if we wrote to you, perhaps you would come to the nursery, but Nurse saw and tore it up. She said we were selfish and that you had more important matters." Charlotte nodded vigorously. "She said you did not wish to be bothered by naughty children who always want more." Arthur exhaled slowly. "You are not naughty," he said. "You are not selfish. You should never be afraid to tell me when something is wrong." Charlotte's eyes filled again. "But you are so far away," she whispered. "In your study, or out riding, or with gentlemen. And Nurse said if we disturbed you, you would be angry." He had nothing to say to that. He rose abruptly. "Stay here," he said. "Do not move. Do not let anyone take you away from this room until I say so. Do you understand?" Henry straightened. "Yes, Papa." Charlotte nodded and wiped her nose with the back of her hand. He handed her a napkin, with more gentleness than grace. He went to the door and opened it. Emily waited in the passage, back pressed against the wall, hands clasped. "My lord," she said. "Come in," he replied. "You will remain with the children. No one is to remove them from this room. Should anyone attempt it, you will tell them you are under my direct order. If they persist, you will send Henry to fetch me." "Yes, my lord," she said. She stepped back into the room. Henry and Charlotte's faces brightened at the sight of her. Charlotte stretched out a hand as if to be reassured she was real. Arthur watched the three of them for a heartbeat, then turned on his heel and left. He found Mrs. Whitfield in the still room, as the footman had said. She was bending over a list, spectacles low on her nose. At his approach, she straightened at once and folded the paper. "My lord," she said, "Lady Beatrice told me you were troubled by my report. I am sorry to have caused concern. I thought it my duty to inform you of the maid's behavior." "We will discuss that in due course," he said. "Where is Lady Beatrice?" "In the morning room, I believe, my lord." "Send for her," he said, "and for Mr. Benton, and for Miss Carter, the governess, and nurse, and cook, and the senior footman. You will all meet me in the main dining hall in 10 minutes. Her eyes widened. "The dining hall, my lord? For such a matter, is that necessary? Perhaps a quiet word?" "10 minutes, Mrs. Whitfield," he said. "If any of those I have named are not present, I will consider their absence an act of disobedience." He walked away before she could answer. The main dining hall was not designed for servant meetings. It was built for long dinners and formal occasions, for polished silver and polished manners. Portraits of Harrington ancestors stared down from the walls, their painted eyes severe. Arthur stood at the head of the table, hands behind his back, watching the door. The clock on the mantel ticked with unnerving precision. One by one they came. Lady Beatrice, composed and faintly annoyed. Mr. Benton, the steward, thin and slightly stooped, with ink stains on his fingers. Mrs. Whitfield, flushed and tense. Nurse, plump, tight-mouthed, squeezing her hands together. Miss Carter, the governess, pale and worried. Cook, wiping her hands on her apron, eyes darting about as if she had stumbled onto the wrong stage. The senior footman, James, shoulders square, face carefully blank. Emily came last, having left the children in the servants' dining room with strict instructions. She hovered near the doorway, unsure if she should enter fully. Arthur saw her and nodded once. "Come in, Emily," he said. "You were named. You will stand there, by the wall." She obeyed, cheeks already pink with discomfort. When they were all in place, he let the silence stretch a little longer. Then he spoke. "You have been called here," he said, "because serious questions have arisen concerning the care of my children and the conduct of my household. I will have answers. They will be truthful, they will be plain. There will be no hedging." Lady Beatrice gave a small laugh. "Arthur, dear, is this not a little dramatic? We are speaking of a maid's misconduct, not a matter of Parliament. We are speaking," he said without looking at her, "of my children going hungry in my own house." The words dropped into the room like stones. Nurse let out a little squeak. Mrs. Whitfield's face went white, then mottled. Mr. Benton blinked rapidly. Emily stared at the floor. "Hungry?" Beatrice repeated. "Surely there is some mistake. The nursery is well supplied. I have seen to it myself." Arthur's gaze moved to the housekeeper. "Mrs. Whitfield," he said, "what is the current arrangement for the children's meals?" She cleared her throat. "As per your instructions, my lord," she said. 3 meals a day, served in the nursery. Breakfast at 8, dinner at 1, supper at 6. Bread, porridge, broth, meat when available, seasonal vegetables. A modest but sufficient fare, given the circumstances. "And what circumstances are those?" he asked. She drew herself up. "The estate's finances, my lord," she said. "We have spoken often of the need for economy, of waste in the kitchens, of frivolous extras. I merely applied your wishes." "My wishes," he repeated. "Did I specify that the children should go without supper 2 nights in a week?" Her eyes flickered. "Surely that is an exaggeration, my lord," she said quickly. "If a tray was delayed or misplaced once, it cannot be helped. Servants are not perfect." He turned his gaze to Nurse. "Did the children go to bed without supper last week?" he asked. Nurse twisted her hands. "Well, my lord, children will complain," she began. "They would eat sugared cakes at every meal if allowed. They call it nothing if there is not pudding. They—" "Yes or no?" he said. She swallowed. "There were 2 evenings," she said reluctantly, "when the tray did not arrive. I gave them bread from the nursery cupboard. It was not nothing. They are dramatical, my lord, that is all." "And you did not seek to know why the trays failed to arrive?" he asked. "I mentioned it to Mrs. Whitfield," she said. "She said the kitchens were stretched and that you had ordered restraint. She said the children must learn to be less demanding." Arthur shifted his attention back to the housekeeper. "Did you say that?" he asked. Mrs. Whitfield stiffened. I reminded nurse of your insistence on frugality, she said. I did not intend the children to go without entirely. If a tray failed, it was the fault of the kitchen or the footman. I cannot be everywhere. He looked at Cook. Have you, at my instruction or anyone else's, withheld trays meant for the nursery? He asked. Cook's eyes widened in horror. Never, my lord, she said. I set what I am told to set. Trays are prepared according to the lists I receive. Sometimes they are smaller of late, but they go out. If they do not reach the nursery, it is not from my doing. Smaller of late? He asked. Yes, my lord, she said. Mrs. Whitfield directed that less meat be sent, that the richer dishes be kept for the main table, or not prepared at all. She said you had ordered it. I have seen food taken from the nursery trays in the corridor on occasion, but I assumed it was by your will. Arthur's gaze went to the senior footman. James, he said, you carry these trays. Have you seen them altered? James hesitated only a moment. Yes, my lord, he said. On some evenings, when I carried the nursery tray from the kitchen, Mrs. Whitfield or Lady Beatrice would intercept me. They would say the children had had too much of late and remove certain dishes. I thought it odd, but I do not question my betters. I deliver what I am given. All eyes turned imperceptibly toward Lady Beatrice. She pursed her lips. Really, Arthur, she said lightly, this is absurd. If I removed a cake or a piece of meat now and then, it was only for their health. Children must not be overfed. It leads to all sorts of troubles in later life. Doctors say so. You cannot call this starving them. I call it denying them what was prepared for them, he said. I call it interfering with their comfort without my knowledge. She laughed, brittle and thin. You are overreacting. You have always been prone to— I have always trusted my household, he cut in, perhaps too much. He turned suddenly to Emily, who stood at the wall, hands clasped tightly. And you, he said, you have been accused of insubordination, of wastefulness, of feeding the children without permission. Explain yourself. Every head pivoted toward her. She swallowed hard. Her voice, when it came, was low but steady. I found the nursery trays scant, my lord, she said. The children cried from hunger. They were pale. They said they had gone to bed without supper. I asked cook for what was left from the main dinners, the pieces no one wished. She let me have them. I made a stew. It cost you nothing. I thought that if food was to be thrown away, it might as well fill the children's stomachs. Mrs. Whitfield sniffed loudly. There, she said. You see, my lord. She admits to taking food without proper authorization. She moves beyond her station, assuming she knows better than those set above her. Emily flushed. I did not sell it, she said. I did not hide it. I placed it openly in the servants' pot and shared it with those who were hungry. When the children saw it, they begged for some. I could not refuse them. And when corrected, Arthur asked, did you answer impertinently? Emily's hands tightened. I said that children ought not to be hungry in a house such as this, she said. If that is impertinence, then I was impertinent. A murmur stirred in the room. Beatrice's eyes flashed. You see, she said, this is precisely the problem. She presumes to judge. Today she judges your household. Tomorrow she judges you. She must be taught her place. Arthur held up a hand. Enough, he said. Silence fell. He looked at Emily. Why did you not come to me? He asked. She gave a small, helpless shrug. I am a maid, my lord, she said. I do not enter your study. I do not write letters to an earl. I spoke to my superiors. They said it was your will. I believed them, until I saw your face in the doorway today. There was something simple and devastating in that. He looked around the table. I did not order my children to be denied, he said. I did not order their trays to be lightened. I did not authorize anyone to starve them of supper. I spoke of economy, not cruelty. Mrs. Whitfield's chin lifted. No one has been cruel, my lord, she said. You are misled by a servant with a tender heart and no sense. Children are dramatic. They turn a mist pudding into a tragedy. You must not let guilt cloud your judgment. Guilt. The word struck home. He knew he bore some share. He had not looked closely enough. He had not asked enough questions. Beatrice stepped closer to him. Arthur, think, she said smoothly. You are a rational man. This maid is new. Her previous position ended abruptly. The agency said little. Does that not strike you as suspicious? She may have caused trouble before. She may be using the children's affection to secure her place. Miss Carter, the governess, spoke for the first time. "If I may, my lord," she said shyly, "the children are indeed fond of Emily. They speak of her often. They seek her when they are upset. It is not usual. It undermines nurse's authority. I feared it might lead to confusion for them." Emily turned toward her. "I have never told them to disobey you," Emily said. "I only comforted them when they were in distress." "Which is not your role," Mrs. Whitfield said sharply. "You are neither nurse nor governess. You are a lower servant. Your attachment to the children is unhealthy. It invites misunderstanding." Arthur listened, torn. He saw the blush on Emily's cheeks, the tension in her shoulders. He saw the practiced calm of Mrs. Whitfield, the smooth indignation of Lady Beatrice, the weary resignation of Cook. He knew where his class and his training would tell him to place his trust. "Emily Carter," he said at last. She lifted her chin. "My lord, you have, by your own admission, disobeyed orders and interfered in matters beyond your position," he said. "You have also shown kindness where others did not. I cannot ignore either fact." Hope flickered and died in her eyes in the space of a breath. "I will not dismiss you today," he said. Mrs. Whitfield made a small choking sound. "My lord, after all this—" He raised a hand. "I said not today," he repeated, "until I have had time to review matters more fully. However, Emily, you will no longer attend the nursery. You will have no contact with the children beyond what is unavoidable in the course of your duties. Your work will be confined to the lower floors. Any further breach of instruction will result in your immediate dismissal. Do you understand?" She seemed to shrink just slightly. "Yes, my lord," she said. "I understand." Henry and Charlotte's faces flashed before his eyes. He pushed the image away. "To the rest of you," he said, his voice colder, "I say this. The children's meals will be restored at once. Cook, you will provide what is proper for their age and station. Nurse, you will ensure those trays reach them. James, you will report to me if any dish is removed from a tray once it leaves the kitchen. Mrs. Whitfield, you will adjust your instructions accordingly. Lady Beatrice, I thank you for your concern, but you will not interfere directly with the nursery's food again." Beatrice's lips parted in outrage. "Arthur, how dare you—" "Enough," he said. "You have all heard me. We are done here." He turned and left them standing in the long room. Voices rose behind him, soft and tense, as the group broke apart. In the corridor outside, Emily hovered as if unsure which way to go. She curtsied as he approached. "Thank you, my lord," she said quietly, "for believing me, at least a little." "I have not yet decided what I believe," he said. "I have only decided I require more information." She nodded. "As you say, my lord." He hesitated. "The children," he said. "They will be distressed by this. I expect you to obey my instruction and keep your distance, but I do not forbid a word of farewell. Make it brief, and tell them I will see them this evening." A small, startled light flickered in her eyes. "Yes, my lord." She slipped away toward the servants' dining room. He watched her go, then set his jaw and headed for his study. The ledgers waited. So did the old drawer he had not opened since Rose died. Later, when the house had settled into uneasy routine, Emily carried a stack of folded linens down the corridor that led past the steward's small office. She moved quietly, her step soft, not wanting to invite glances. Her humiliation in the dining hall still burned in her, a dull, constant ache. As she neared the half-open door, she heard voices inside. "You were careless," a woman hissed. "You should never have put things in her box. If he had not hesitated, she would be gone already." "She is still as good as gone," a man replied. "He has stripped her of the children. Without them, she will lose heart. She will leave of her own accord." Emily froze. The linens almost slipped from her grasp. Mrs. Whitfield's voice came again, low and fierce. "She listens, that girl. She watches what comes into the kitchen. She questions why some accounts do not match. If she pries any further, Arthur will start prying too, and then where will we be?" Mr. Benton's reply was colder. "We will be ruined if he looks too closely. The fewer eyes about, the better. We must make certain the girl keeps away from the accounts and the children both. If she learns more, all our careful balancing will come crashing down." Emily's heart hammered. The words tangled in her mind. Accounts, balancing, ruined. She shifted her weight, meaning to step back the way she had come, but the old floorboard beneath her foot creaked loudly, and the voices inside the office stopped at once. The sound of the creaking board seemed to echo down the narrow corridor. Emily's breath caught. The linens in her arms felt suddenly heavy. Inside the steward's office, chairs scraped. "Did you hear that?" Mrs. Whitfield's voice snapped, sharp and wary. Emily did the only thing she could think to do. She stepped forward instead of back, quick and purposeful, and rapped lightly on the open door with her knuckles. "I beg your pardon, ma'am," she called, schooling her voice to steadiness. "Mr. Benton, Mrs. Whitfield, I did not mean to intrude." There was a swift rustle as if papers were being shuffled away. Then Mr. Benton's thin face appeared in the doorway, his expression pinched. "Emily," he said, "what are you doing in this passage? You have no business here at this hour." She lifted the linens slightly. "I was told to bring these to the store cupboard," she said. "I passed by and thought I heard my name. I wish to assure you I am at my duties." Mrs. Whitfield appeared behind him, eyes narrowed. Her cheeks were flushed. "You heard wrong," the housekeeper said briskly. "We were discussing inventories, not insolent maids. The store cupboard is the other way, girl. Do not prowl where you are not wanted." "Yes, ma'am," Emily murmured. She dipped a curtsy, forcing her knees not to shake, and turned away. She felt their eyes on her back as she walked, careful not to quicken her pace. Once she rounded the corner, she allowed herself one long, steadying breath. Her heart pounded. The words she had overheard pressed against her mind. If she pries any further, he will start prying too. We will be ruined. But ruined for what? Accounts, balancing. She was only a maid. She knew nothing of ledgers and sums, only that flour sometimes went missing before bread was made, and that crates delivered at the back door did not always appear as food on the table. For now, she told herself, she must say nothing. She had no proof, only a creak and a few hurried words. If she accused without evidence, they would call her spiteful. They already thought her troublesome. Another misstep, and she would be out on the road. She squeezed the linens in her arms and went about her task. Days followed, heavy and strained. Emily kept to the lower floors, as Arthur had ordered. She scrubbed, polished, carried, dusted. Each time she heard a child's laugh from above, she froze. Charlotte's high little trill, Henry's quick shout. Old habits made her turn toward the sound. Then she remembered and forced herself away. Once, in the back corridor, Charlotte slipped past Nurse and broke into a run, her boots pattering on the boards. "Emily!" she cried. Emily spun. Charlotte hurled herself at her, arms around her waist. "I have missed you so dreadfully," the child whispered into her apron. "Nurse says you were wicked, but I do not believe it. Why do you not come?" Nurse came puffing after her, eyes flashing. "Miss Charlotte," she scolded, "you were told not to disturb the lower servants. Let go at once." Emily's hands hovered, wanting to hold the girl and not daring. "Miss Charlotte," she said softly, "you must obey your nurse. Your papa wishes it." Charlotte looked up at her. "Does he?" she whispered. "Or did someone say he does?" The question was too close. Emily had no answer. Nurse seized the child's hand. "Come away, miss," she snapped. "You will not speak so. As for you, Emily, mind your own duties. The master was too indulgent, dismissing you partially. Another slip, and you will be gone." "Yes, nurse," Emily murmured. As they walked away, Charlotte looked back over her shoulder, eyes clouded with hurt. Emily swallowed hard and returned to her bucket. At meals in the servants' hall, conversations dropped when she entered. Some servants looked at her with suspicion, others with a mingling of curiosity and fear. No one wished to be associated with a maid under scrutiny. Cook alone offered her a gentler glance. "You did right by the little ones," Cook muttered once, passing her a plate with a slightly larger slice of bread. "The good Lord sees, but be careful whose toes you step on. Some toes are attached to boots that can kick hard." Emily gave a faint smile. "I have no wish to step on anyone," she said. "I only wish the children to be well." "Aye," Cook said. "That is precisely the sort of wish that troubles those who prosper from others' lack." Upstairs, Arthur retreated to his study with the ledgers. They lay in stacks on his desk, neat and precise, ruled lines and tidy columns. Mr. Benton prided himself on order. Each page had the calm appearance of honesty. Arthur ran his finger down figures for meat, flour, coal, candles. He compared months. On the surface, nothing leapt out. Prices shifted as markets did. Quantities rose and fell with seasons. Yet some unease nagged at him. He rang for Mr. Benton. The steward arrived with his usual stooped composure. "You sent for me, my lord." Arthur tapped the open ledger. "These accounts for the past year," he said. "You assure me they are accurate?" "Of course, my lord," Benton said. "I check each entry myself." "I see a rise in expenses for certain items," Arthur said, "yet no corresponding improvement in what appears on my table, nor, it seems, in what reaches the nursery." Benton's expression did not change, but a tightness came into his eyes. "Prices have risen everywhere, my lord," he said. "The butchers in town complain of shortages. Grain has been poor. We are fortunate to have as much as we do. As for the nursery," he spread his hands. "Children exaggerate. They would say they starve when denied a second custard." Arthur's mouth thinned. "Cook spoke of trays being altered in the corridor," he said. "James confirmed that dishes have been removed en route." Benton shifted slightly. "Household management is under Mrs. Whitfield's supervision," he said. "I handle accounts, not plates. If there has been overzealous economy, I am not the one to ask." "But you approve the orders to merchants," Arthur said. "You know what is purchased." "Yes, my lord, according to your own instructions of restraint. You asked me to curtail expenses, I have. I asked you to curtail waste," Arthur said. "There is a difference." Benton gave a small, practiced sigh. "With respect, my lord, it is easy to speak of difference from a distance. We must make choices below stairs. We have done our best to keep the hall respectable while observing frugality. If you wish to reverse those priorities, I will obey, but the result will be seen in your accounts." Arthur watched him. "Leave the ledgers," he said. "I will continue my review." "As you wish, my lord." When Benton had gone, Arthur sat back and rubbed his temples. He felt as if he were fighting smoke, nothing solid to catch, only hints and shadows. And beneath it all, the image of his children's thin faces. That evening, he took supper in the nursery for the first time in months. Henry and Charlotte stared as he entered. Miss Carter nearly dropped her book. A nurse rose so quickly her chair scraped. "Papa!" Charlotte cried, scrambling from her seat. Henry followed more slowly, trying to look dignified and failing entirely as he tripped over his own feet. Arthur took them in his arms, one on each side. "You are surprised to see me," he said. "We thought you forgot where the nursery was," Henry said, then flushed. "I did not mean that, Papa. Only, you meant it," Arthur said dryly. "And you were correct. I have neglected this room." Nurse fluttered her hands. "My lord, if I had known you were coming, I would have arranged." "You will arrange nothing more tonight," he said. "I will see to their bedtime myself. Miss Carter, thank you. You may retire." The governess looked relieved and bewildered. "Yes, my lord." When they were gone, he sat at the small table with the children. The supper tray this time was generous. A bowl of hearty stew, slices of bread, even a small dish of stewed apple. "Is this more than usual?" he asked quietly. Henry and Charlotte exchanged a look. "Yes," Henry said. "Usually there is less. Tonight, Nurse said we must be grateful because you were being very kind." "I see," Arthur said. He watched them eat. They did not bolt the food as if starved, but there was no idle play with their spoons. Each bite seemed important. He stayed as they undressed and climbed into their beds. He tugged the blankets higher and sat on the chair between them. "Papa," Charlotte said sleepily, "will Emily come back to read to us?" "No." Nurse's voice came from the doorway, faintly disapproving. "Emily is to remain below stairs, Miss Charlotte. You must not ask for her." Arthur glanced at Nurse. "She may ask what she wishes," he said. "I will answer." Charlotte waited, eyes wide. "Emily is still in the house," Arthur said slowly, "but she must follow my rules as you must. For now she cannot visit the nursery. That is my decision. Not Nurse's, not anyone else's. Mine." Charlotte nodded, but tears welled up. "I miss her," she whispered. "She made up stories, and she always listened." She hesitated. "You are listening now. I like that too." Something shifted in him at that. "I will try to listen more," he said. He stayed until they slept, their breaths soft and even. Only then did he leave the nursery. Days turned into a week. The nursery trays remained abundant. No more meals were missing. The house settled into an uneasy calm. To a casual eye, everything was as it should be, but beneath something coiled. One grey afternoon, the calm shattered. Emily was polishing the banister at the back stairs when a shrill call echoed from the front hall. "Everyone to the servants' hall at once," a hall boy cried, breathless. "Mrs. Whitfield says everyone is to come, the master is there." Emily's heart dropped. Another assembly, another humiliation. She wiped her hands and followed the trickle of maids and footmen to the servants' hall. The room was crowded when she entered, faces turned, some anxious, some curious. At the far end, near the large table, stood Arthur, Lady Beatrice, Mr. Benton, and Mrs. Whitfield. On the table lay a small wooden box. Beside it, on a white cloth, something gleamed softly. Emily edged to the side, trying to see. It was a pair of pearl earrings. Her breath caught. They were delicate, each pearl matched, set in a fine gold twist. Even from a distance she could see they were costly. Mrs. Whitfield's mouth was tight, her eyes bright with something like satisfaction. "As you can see," she was saying as Emily slipped in, "these were discovered only an hour ago." Arthur's gaze swept the room. "Everyone is present?" he asked. "Nearly, my lord," Mrs. Whitfield said. "Some are at outside duties." "Then we proceed," he said. "Mrs. Whitfield, explain." She turned slightly, projecting her voice. "This morning," she said, "I received a quiet word from one of the junior maids that certain items have been missing from the late Countess's effects. A small casket in my lord's private sitting room was found unlocked and empty of its usual contents. I took it upon myself to make discreet inquiries. I instructed that a few trunks be checked purely as a precaution." Murmurs stirred. Trunks. Privacy. The words made servants shift uneasily. Emily's fingers curled into her apron. Something cold ran along her spine. "And in the trunk belonging to Emily Carter," Mrs. Whitfield went on, "wrapped in a kerchief at the bottom, we found these." She gestured to the earrings. "Do any of you recognize them?" she asked. Lady Beatrice stepped forward with a sigh that sounded almost theatrical. "I do," she said. "They were roses. She wore them often in town. They should have been put away with her other jewels, but she liked to keep them close." "Arthur, you remember?" Arthur nodded once, his face unreadable. "I remember," he said. Mrs. Whitfield turned her gaze toward Emily. "Emily Carter," she said. "Step forward." The crowd parted, leaving a narrow path. Emily felt as though she walked through water. Her legs were stiff, her heart pounding high in her throat. She stopped a few steps from the table, staring at the pearls. She had never seen them in her life. "Do you deny that these were found in your trunk?" Mrs. Whitfield asked. "Yes," Emily said, then corrected herself quickly. "I mean, I do not know how they came there. I did not put them there. I have never seen them before." "Your trunk was locked?" Arthur asked quietly. "Yes, my lord," she said. "I keep it locked when I am at work." Mrs. Whitfield lifted the small key. "And yet I have a key that opens it," she said, "taken from the hook where you hang it." Emily's stomach dropped. "Anyone could take it from the hook," she said. "We share pegs and nails. I leave it there because—" "Because you are careless," Mrs. Whitfield said. "Careless with your possessions, perhaps less careless with what you take from others." "I did not take them," Emily said, forcing herself to meet Arthur's gaze. "My lord, I swear to you on my mother's memory. I have never stolen anything in my life." Beatrice's tone was gentle and poisonous at once. "You must admit, Arthur," she said, "it is a strange coincidence. First, she steals food under the guise of charity. Now jewelry appears in her trunk. And let us not forget that her last position ended abruptly, with very little explanation from the agency. It begins to form a pattern." Emily's cheeks burned. "I left my last position because I refused certain attentions," she said, her voice tight. "The agency can tell you so. I was never accused of theft." "And yet you never mentioned this in your interview," Beatrice said. "One would think a girl concerned with honesty would speak plainly." "Enough," Arthur said, though his voice lacked some of its usual firmness. He picked up one of the earrings and held it between his fingers. His thumb rubbed over the pearl, as if remembering. "These were in my sitting room," he said, "in a drawer only I and Mrs. Whitfield attend." "Yes, my lord," Mrs. Whitfield said. "I dust there weekly, as you know. Last week they were in their place. Today they are not. And then we find them hidden with this girl's few things. Draw your own conclusion." A heavy silence fell. Emily looked around the room. No friendly face, only unease and curiosity. Even Cook avoided her eyes, lips pressed together. "My lord," Emily said, "someone must have put them there. Someone who has keys to both your room and the servants' quarters. Why would I take such a thing? How would I wear it? I have no occasion, no courage. I would be caught at once." "Thieves do not always act with sense," Beatrice said. Emily ignored her. "My lord, I have only been in your sitting room once," she said. "The day I was hired, when I was shown where to wait for you. I have not entered it since. I would not dare. Ask any maid. Ask Mrs. Whitfield. She keeps a strict watch." Mrs. Whitfield's expression was cool. "A watch you resented from the first," she said. "You complain of injustice when you are merely held to the standard others follow willingly." James, the senior footman, shifted as if uneasy. For a moment Emily thought he might speak. Then his eyes dropped. His loyalty, she knew, was to his wages. Arthur set the earring down. His face was very still. "Emily," he said, "can you offer any explanation for how these came to be in your trunk?" "No, my lord," she whispered, "only that they were not placed there by my hand." Beatrice sighed. "Arthur, you must think of the example," she said. "If you allow such behavior to go unpunished, the entire household will take license. Servants talk. The story will spread. Your leniency over the food has already caused whispers. You cannot appear weak again." He closed his eyes briefly, then opened them. "I will not tolerate theft in my house," he said. "From anyone, of anything." Emily's fingers shook. "I understand," she said, "but I did not—" He held up a hand. "I have heard your denial," he said. "I do not dismiss it lightly, but there is physical evidence before us. I cannot ignore that either." Pain lanced through her chest. She fought to steady her voice. "Then you will send me away," she said, very quietly. He looked at her for a long moment. "Yes," he said at last. "At first light tomorrow you will leave Harrington Hall. You will be given your wages to date. You will receive no reference from this house." A murmur ran through the crowd. Emily swayed. No reference. In their world, that was almost a sentence. "My lord," she said, "where can I go without a reference? What house will take me?" "That is not my concern," Mrs. Whitfield said sharply. Arthur did not rebuke her. That hurt more than the words. Emily swallowed her tears. She would not sob before them. "Is that your final decision, my lord?" she asked. "Yes," he said. She drew in a breath. "Then I ask one thing," she said. "One last favor, though I have no right to any." He seemed surprised. "Speak," he said. "Look into your accounts yourself," she said. "Do not leave it to Mr. Benton. Ask the merchants in town what they deliver and what they are told to charge. Ask Cook how much food comes through her kitchen. Ask the pawnbrokers whether any items from this house have passed through their hands. Do not take my word. Take no one's word. Only look, for your children's sake." Her gaze flicked briefly toward Lady Beatrice and Mrs. Whitfield. If they saw the accusation there, they did not show it. Arthur studied her. "You ask this," he said slowly. "Not for yourself, for them," she whispered. "And perhaps for your late lady. She trusted this house to certain people. I do not know their hearts. I only know that hunger and missing earrings do not happen without hands moving them." Beatrice's color rose. "This is slander," she snapped. "Arthur, you must put a stop to this insolence." He sighed. "This assembly is concluded," he said. "Return to your duties. Emily, you will pack your things. You may remain in your room until morning. You are not to go near the nursery. I will see that your wages are sent up." Emily bowed her head. "As you wish, my lord." She turned and walked out, feeling the weight of every eye on her. Once in the corridor, she allowed herself to lean briefly against the wall. Then she straightened and climbed the narrow stairs to her small room. Her trunk sat at the foot of her bed, still gaping open from Mrs. Whitfield's inspection. The kerchief they had unwrapped lay crumpled to the side. She picked it up and smoothed it, her hands shaking. "That is done," she whispered to the empty room. "At least I kept my temper." She packed slowly, folding her few dresses, her spare apron, the worn shawl that had been her mother's. Each item felt like a farewell to a life she had hoped would last more than a few short months. On the other side of the house, Arthur returned to his study with his thoughts in turmoil. He closed the door and leaned on the desk, staring at the empty grate. The image of Emily's face would not leave him. Not pleading, exactly, only disappointed. In him. Perhaps. He shook himself and pulled the ledgers toward him again. The columns of numbers blurred. He pushed them aside and reached instead for a drawer he had not opened in 3 years. It was the upper right drawer of his desk. The key hung on a small hook inside the larger cabinet. His hand hesitated in mid-air, then closed around it. He slid the key into the lock and turned it. The drawer opened with a reluctant groan, as if resenting the light. Inside lay a few neatly tied bundles of letters. Rose's handwriting curled across the topmost envelope. He had not been able to bear them before. Now something urged him on. He took the top letter and broke the seal with care. The paper crackled faintly as he unfolded it. "My dear Arthur," it began, in that familiar hand. "I have tried to speak to you of this, but you are always so busy, and I am not brave in such matters. Forgive me for writing what I cannot say aloud." He sank into his chair and read. She wrote of small sums that did not match, of merchants in town who quietly hinted that they charged more at Harrington Hall than elsewhere because the steward insists upon it, of servants who seemed to live above their wages, of a sense that something under their roof was not as it should be. She named those she feared might be involved. As Arthur's eyes reached the names, his fingers tightened on the page and his breath caught in his throat. Rose's letter shook in Arthur's hands. Ink faded by 3 years, still cut sharp. "I fear you trust too easily where you do not wish to look closely. Mr. Benton speaks smoothly, but tradesmen hint he insists upon prices above what others pay. Mrs. Whitfield handles the household with an iron hand, yet somehow her cousins prosper in town, while our own servants complain of shortages. As for Beatrice, I know she is your cousin, and I wish to think well of her, but she has a way of pressing me to accept her friends' services and orders, always at a higher cost than before. Perhaps it is nothing. But perhaps, my dear, it is not." Her words blurred for a moment. He blinked them back into focus. She had seen it. She had tried to tell him. He had been too busy, too grief-stricken, too proud to listen. He read the letter twice, then folded it carefully and laid it in front of him on the desk. The house was quiet. Outside, the November wind moved against the windows. Inside, years of trust rearranged themselves into something colder. Benton, Whitfield, Beatrice. He rose abruptly and rang the bell. The butler appeared, discreet and grave. "My lord? Has Emily Carter left the house?" Arthur asked. "Not yet, my lord," the butler replied. "She has remained in her room since the announcement. Mrs. Whitfield said she was to be allowed to stay until morning." "Send a message at once," Arthur said. "Tell her she is not to leave Harrington Hall until she receives further instructions from me personally. She is to consider herself under review, not dismissed." The butler's brows twitched, but he bowed. "At once, my lord." "And send a groom to the stables," Arthur continued. "I want a fast rider to go to York tonight with letters. He will start within the hour." "Yes, my lord." Arthur sat and pulled out fresh paper. He wrote 3 letters, one to his solicitor in York, requesting an urgent and discreet examination of the estate's accounts and dealings with specific merchants over the past 3 years, naming Benton and Whitfield, and asking for advice on how best to secure the Hall's interests. The second, to the servants' agency in Leeds, asked for the full truth regarding Emily Carter's previous position, the reason for her departure, any accusations made, any recommendation given or withheld. The third, also to York, was addressed to a reputable jeweller and pawnbroker whose name Rose had once mentioned. Arthur inquired whether any items matching his late wife's jewels had been presented there recently, and by whom. He sealed the letters and handed them to the butler as he returned. "These go tonight," Arthur said. "No delay." "Yes, my lord." "And the message to Emily?" "I have sent a maid, my lord," the butler replied. "She will be informed she is to remain." Arthur nodded. "Very well. That is all." When he was alone again, he glanced at Rose's letter once more, then put it back into the drawer. This time he did not lock it. Upstairs, Emily sat on her narrow bed, hands folded in her lap, when the maid arrived. "From the master," the maid said, slightly out of breath. "You're not to leave in the morning after all. You're to wait for his orders." Emily stared. "Not to leave," she repeated. "But he dismissed me, in front of everyone." The maid shrugged. "Men change their minds," she said. "That is nothing new. Only do as you are told. Mrs. Whitfield will not like it, I can tell you that." "Did she say anything?" Emily asked quickly. "She said nothing," the maid replied. "But her face, if looks could sweep floors, this house would shine for a year." She hesitated, then lowered her voice. "I am sorry, Emily, about the earrings. I do not believe you would take such a thing." Gratitude stung Emily's eyes. "Thank you," she said quietly. After the maid left, Emily sat very still, not dismissed, not safe, suspended between. She slept little that night. Morning came, grey and thin. No one knocked with her wages. No one came to say she must go. She was sent to help in the scullery, nothing more. Mrs. Whitfield looked through her as if she were a smudge on the wall. 2 days passed, then 4. The air in the house felt strained, as if everyone were waiting for a storm they could sense, but not see. Benton walked with tighter shoulders. Mrs. Whitfield snapped at small mistakes. Beatrice grew more brittle, complaining of draughts and headaches and the gloom that had settled since Arthur had begun sulking over trifles below stairs. Arthur himself was less visible. He rode out to the village, visited merchants in person, spoke quietly with the vicar. He watched trays leave the kitchen and appear in the nursery, counted portions with his eyes, and said little. At the end of the week, answers came. Arthur was in his study when the butler brought in the bundle of letters on a tray. "From York and Leeds, my lord." "Thank you. That will be all." He opened the solicitor's letter first. The words were careful, but the meaning was not. Certain merchants had indeed been instructed to charge Harrington Hall higher prices than their standard rates, with the difference paid out in cash to the steward's representative. Several charitable funds established in the late Countess's memory had received smaller sums than those noted in the Hall's own records. Shipments of coal and food were larger on paper than in reality. The solicitor proposed a full on-site review. In the meantime, he advised Arthur to restrict Mr. Benton's authority immediately and secure all account books. Arthur set the letter down, feeling something inside him harden. He opened the second letter. The agency in Leeds confirmed that Emily Carter had left her previous position because she had refused the advances of the employer's son. When she complained, she had been quietly dismissed to avoid scandal, but the family had not accused her of theft or misconduct. On the contrary, the agency noted, she had been recommended as honest, diligent, and particularly good with children. Arthur felt shame prick the back of his neck. The third letter from York was shorter, but no less damning. A pair of pearl earrings matching the description he had given had been brought in 2 days before by a woman of middle years and a thin man who called himself a steward. Their names, entered in the pawnbroker's book, matched exactly: Mrs. Agnes Whitfield and Mr. Samuel Benton. The pawnbroker added, almost apologetically, that he would gladly return the items if the money advanced were repaid, and he would cooperate with any inquiry. Arthur sat back in his chair. He stared at the 3 letters. One proving long-term mismanagement, one clearing Emily, one revealing outright theft. He thought of Rose's careful handwriting, of Emily standing with her head high and her trunk open, of his children clinging to a maid because no one else had cared enough to feed them properly. Then he rang the bell again. "Ask Lady Beatrice, Mr. Benton, and Mrs. Whitfield to come to my study at once," he told the butler, "privately, and send word to the nursery that the children are to remain there this hour. I will visit them afterward." "Yes, my lord." The 3 arrived within minutes. Beatrice swept in first, with a rustle of silk and a faint cloud of scent, followed by Benton, pale and stiff, and Mrs. Whitfield, her lips pressed so tightly they nearly vanished. "You wish to see us, Arthur?" Beatrice asked, attempting a light tone. "I hope this is not another inquisition over soups and sauces. I confess my nerves are frayed." "Sit," he said. There was a quality to his voice that none of them had heard in some time. They sat. He did not take his place behind the desk. Instead, he stood beside it, the letters in his hand. "Several matters require clarity," he said. "We will address them directly." Benton cleared his throat. "If this is about the accounts, my lord, I assure you everything is in order. There are fluctuations, naturally, but..." Arthur held up one of the letters. I have had the accounts reviewed, he said, by someone whose loyalty is not in question. Merchants have been overcharging at the steward's insistence. Funds have been misdirected. Goods have been ordered in excess, on paper at least. Do you deny this? Benton's face went grey. My lord, there must be some mistake. Tradesmen will say anything to curry favour. They misunderstand. Perhaps they exaggerated their tales, hoping to— Arthur read aloud a line with the steward's name clearly written, the amounts noted, the description of coins paid out. Do you claim this handwriting is not yours? He asked. Benton stared at the floor. I did what I thought best, he muttered. You wished the hall to maintain its standing. It costs money to keep up appearances. A small adjustment here and there. A small adjustment? Arthur repeated. You have been stealing from this house, from my children, from the poor my wife wished to help. You took their bread and turned it into your own. Benton's mouth worked soundlessly. Arthur turned to Mrs. Whitfield. As for you, he said, the pawnbroker in York remembers you well. You and Mr. Benton took my wife's earrings to him 2 days ago. He has named you. He has described you. He has the items still. Colour drained from her face. That man, she began. He lies. He must. I never. His description of the jewels matches those you claim to find in Emily's trunk, Arthur said. Yet those same earrings were in his shop. How do you explain that? Whitfield opened her mouth, closed it, then shot a quick, furious glance at Benton. He said it would be a loan, she burst out. He said no one would notice, that we would redeem them quickly once certain investments paid out. I did not know. Enough, Benton hissed. Do not hush her, Arthur said sharply. You involve my wife's memory in your schemes and expect my patience. Beatrice spoke at last, a touch of frightened indignation in her tone. Arthur, really? This is getting out of hand, she said. You speak as if we were common criminals. Benton has served the family for years. Mrs. Whitfield keeps this house running. If there have been mistakes, they can be corrected. There is no need to shame us all. Arthur looked at her. Us? He repeated softly. Have you something to confess as well, Beatrice? She flushed. I have done nothing but try to help you, she said. You were sinking into melancholy after Rose's death. The estate needed firm management. I stepped in. If I recommended certain suppliers, it was to ensure quality. If I suggested small economies in the nursery, it was for the children's health. Rose wrote to me before she died, he said. She feared the influence of those who pressed her to use their friends' services at higher prices. She feared a steward who spoke too smoothly. She feared a housekeeper whose family prospered while our own accounts thinned. She feared you were not always acting without self-interest. Beatrice went still. You are twisting her words, she whispered. She was frail. She imagined things. You know how illness shadows the mind. I have the letter, he said. Her mind was clearer than mine, it seems. I ignored her. I will not ignore her now. He drew breath. Here is what will happen, he said. Mr. Benton, you are relieved of your duties as steward, effective immediately. You will turn over every ledger, every receipt, every note in your possession to my solicitor when he arrives. You will not leave the estate without my express permission. If the full review confirms what I already see, I will allow the law to decide your fate. Benton slumped. My lord, he whispered, have mercy. I have a sister in Leeds. Children. And my children, Arthur asked quietly. What mercy did you show them when you let their supper vanish into your pockets? Benton had no answer. Arthur turned to Mrs. Whitfield. You are dismissed from Harrington Hall, he said. You will leave before nightfall. You will return any item belonging to this house that is in your keeping. I will expect a full list, and I will verify it. You will receive no reference. If I discover that you have taken anything else, or that you attempt to slander this house to justify yourself, I will not hesitate to inform the authorities of the pawnbroker's account. Whitfield drew herself up, some last scrap of pride struggling. I kept this house respectable, she said. You will not find another who does as much. I would rather it be a little less polished and a little more honest, he replied. You may go. She rose, cheeks burning, and swept from the room without curtsying. Beatrice stood abruptly. And me, she demanded. Do you intend to throw me out like a servant as well? I am your cousin, your only close relation. I came when you needed me. You came when you needed this house, he said. But I will not forget Rose's kindness to you. For her sake, I will not turn you out with nothing. However, your management of this household ends today. You will remove yourself to the dower house in the village for the present. I will arrange a sufficient allowance for your needs. You will no longer direct the servants, handle the accounts, or interfere with the children." She stared at him, incredulous. "You would exile me," she said, "for a maid, for a pair of earrings and some stale bread, for years of quiet theft dressed up as duty," he replied, "for placing your comfort above the welfare of 2 motherless children, for twisting my name into a threat you had no right to speak. This is not about a maid, Beatrice. This is about what sort of man I choose to be in my own house." Her eyes shone suddenly. "You will regret this," she said. "You think society will look kindly on a hall run by servants and sentiment. It will not. You will be laughed at in every drawing room." "Then let them laugh," he said. "I am done fearing whispers more than I fear my own conscience." She pressed her lips together, then turned sharply and left, skirts snapping at her heels. When the door closed, the study felt oddly quiet. Arthur stood for a moment, letting his shoulders drop. Then he rang the bell again. "Ask Cook, James, and Emily Carter to join me here," he told the butler, "and send word to the rest of the staff that they will assemble in the main hall in half an hour." "Yes, my lord." It did not take long. Cook entered first, wiping her hands, eyes wide. James followed, face tense. Emily came last, her posture braced as if expecting another blow. "My lord," she said. "Come closer, Emily," he said. She obeyed, stopping a few feet from the desk. "You have remained in the house at my request," he said. "Do you know why?" "I hoped," she said, "that you had questions, or that you wished to give me time to find a place elsewhere. I did not presume more." He almost smiled at that. "I had questions," he said. "I have my answers now." He picked up the letters and tapped them lightly. "I wrote to your previous employers by way of the agency," he said. "They confirmed that you left because you refused improper attention. They praised your honesty. They did not accuse you of theft." Color rose in her cheeks. "They wrote that," she whispered. "They almost ruined me, and now they praise me. Such is the way of cowards." Cook muttered under her breath. Arthur continued. "I also wrote to a pawnbroker in York," he said. "He has in his possession my late wife's earrings. He bought them from Mrs. Whitfield and Mr. Benton 2 days ago." Emily stared. "So, the earrings were never in your trunk," he said. "They were planted there, I am certain of it. I have dismissed Mrs. Whitfield. Mr. Benton has been stripped of his position and will answer for his actions. Lady Beatrice is removed from the management of this house." Emily swayed slightly. "My lord," she said, "I do not know what to say." "Then allow me to say what I must," he replied, "in front of witnesses." He turned to Cook and James. "You will hear this now," he said. "Emily Carter was falsely accused. She did not steal food. She did not steal jewelry. Any wrong she committed was born of compassion, not malice. I believed ill of her too easily. I allowed my grief and my pride to blind me. I owe her an apology." He faced Emily again. "I am sorry," he said simply, "for doubting you, for humiliating you before the staff, for threatening your future based on lies. Can you forgive me?" Tears sprang to Emily's eyes. She blinked them away angrily. "My lord," she said, voice shaking, "you are the master. You do not need my forgiveness." "I ask for it nevertheless," he said. She swallowed. "I was angry," she admitted. "I felt worthless, as if all my efforts meant nothing. But you have looked into the truth. You have defended your children. You have done what no one else would have. If I do not forgive you, then I am no better than those who wronged me. So yes, I forgive you." Relief loosened something inside him. "Thank you," he said. Cook sniffed loudly and dabbed at her eyes with her sleeve. "If more gentlemen owned their mistakes so neat, we'd have fewer ruined girls and fewer empty bellies," she muttered. "Begging your pardon, my lord." "None needed," Arthur said. He straightened. "Emily," he said, "if you wish to leave Harrington Hall after all that has happened, I will not stop you. I will write you the strongest reference I can, and I will see you provided for until you find a respectable post. But if you are willing to stay, I would have you remain. Not as a scullery maid hidden below stairs, but in a role that suits your gifts." Her brow furrowed. "What role could that be?" she asked. "You have a way with my children," he said. "You see what others miss. You care enough to act. I would like you to serve as a bridge between the nursery and the rest of the household, to ensure that their needs are not neglected, that orders are carried out as intended, that we never again lose sight of their welfare." James gave a low whistle before catching himself. "Like a deputy housekeeper for the nursery, my lord?" Cook asked. "Something like that," Arthur said. "We will find a proper title and a wage to match." Emily shook her head, stunned. "You would trust me so far," she whispered. "I would," he said. "I do." She glanced at Cook, then at James, as if searching their faces for some sign this was real. "I would like to stay," she said at last. "If I may, for the children's sake, and because this house, for all its faults, has begun to feel almost like a place I might belong." Arthur felt an unexpected warmth at that. "Then you shall stay," he said. "Come, we will make it known." Half an hour later, the staff gathered once more in the main hall. Arthur stood at the head of the staircase this time, not in the dining room. Cook and James flanked Emily, who looked as if she might bolt at any moment. When everyone was assembled, Arthur spoke. "You have all heard rumors," he said. "You have seen tensions. It is time matters were put plain." He announced Benton's removal and the coming review of the accounts. He told them of Mrs. Whitfield's dismissal and of Lady Beatrice's departure to the Dower House. Gasps and whispers rolled through the crowd. Some faces showed shock, others something like grim satisfaction. Then he raised a hand. "Most importantly," he said, "I must correct a grave wrong. Emily Carter was accused of theft. I believed it. I was mistaken." He told them briefly of the pawnbroker's letter, of the agency's report, of Emily's defense of the children. "She has been cleared," he said. "Completely. Any who speak otherwise will answer to me." He paused. "She will remain in this house in a position of trust," he added. "You will show her the respect due to one who has suffered injustice and borne it with dignity." For a heartbeat, silence held. Then Cook started to clap. James joined in. A few maids followed, timid at first, then stronger. Emily's face flamed. She bowed her head, trembling. Arthur let the sound swell, then lifted his hand again. "That is enough," he said, though his mouth almost curved. "Return to your duties. There is work to be done, and we will do it more honestly than before." The staff dispersed, buzzing with talk. When the hall had begun to empty, two small figures burst through the remaining crowd. "Emily!" Charlotte cried. Henry was right behind her. Nurse, now looking very uncertain of her own footing in the reorganized house, made a half-hearted move to stop them, then thought better of it. Charlotte flung herself at Emily. "You are not going," she sobbed. "You are not leaving us." Emily dropped to her knees and held her. "No, little miss," she said, laughing and crying at once. "I am not leaving. Your papa has decided to keep me. You must blame him for that." Henry turned to Arthur. "Is it true?" he demanded. "She may stay?" Arthur nodded. "It is true," he said. "And more than that, she will help me make sure no one lies to us again." Henry's chest swelled at the us. "We will watch them together," he said fiercely. "All of them." Arthur almost laughed. "Within reason," he said. "We will not turn the hall into a courtroom, but yes, we will pay more attention." He met Emily's eyes over the children's heads. Something passed between them, not yet named, not yet fully understood. Gratitude, respect, a shared knowledge of what the house had been and what it might become. In the weeks that followed, Harrington Hall changed. A new, quieter housekeeper was hired, a widow with calm eyes and no taste for intrigue. An assistant steward arrived from the solicitor's recommendations, more bookish than charming, with a habit of double-checking every figure. Nurse was quietly replaced by a kinder woman who did not believe hunger was a moral lesson. Arthur took most of his dinners with Henry and Charlotte now. He walked with them in the garden, listened to their recitations, answered their questions, clumsy at first, then with growing ease. He watched them grow stronger, a little less solemn each day. Emily's new responsibilities drew her into the heart of the house. She met with the new housekeeper to discuss nursery needs, spoke with cook about meals, checked that boots were mended and clothes let out as limbs lengthened. She still scrubbed floors when needed, still helped serve meals on busy nights, but now her voice carried weight in matters concerning the children. She and Arthur crossed paths often, in the morning room, where she brought lists for his approval, in the schoolroom, where he arrived unexpectedly to hear Henry's recitation, and stayed to listen to Charlotte stumble over French verbs while Emily encouraged her. In the corridor outside the library, where she paused with a stack of mended books and he, reaching for one on a high shelf, turned and nearly collided with her. "Forgive me," he said, stepping back. "It is nothing, my lord," she replied, though her cheeks warmed. "I should watch where I'm going." "Perhaps we both should," he said. Their conversations remained proper. They spoke of the children, of the new arrangements, of the oddities discovered as the solicitor unravelled Benton's old schemes. Yet each word carried a new ease, a sense that they stood on the same side now. One evening, as winter settled over the estate, Arthur paused in the doorway of the nursery. Emily sat by the hearth with Charlotte's head in her lap, telling a quiet story, while Henry leaned against the window seat, listening with half-shut eyes. The fire cast a gentle glow over them. For a moment Arthur simply watched. Once this room had been a place he avoided, haunted by memory. Now laughter lived here again, and in the centre of it, not a countess or a lady, but a maid who had refused to let his children go hungry. He stepped into the room. "Do not stop on my account," he said. "We are almost at the best part, Papa," Charlotte protested. "Then I will be very still," he replied, "and perhaps I will hear it too." Emily looked up at him, surprised, then smiled. "As you wish, my lord," she said. She went on with the story, her voice low and musical, and Arthur took a chair nearby, content, for the first time in years, simply to sit and listen, unaware that in the quiet weaving of those evenings, something in his own heart was slowly, steadily beginning to change. Spring came late to Yorkshire that year. It slipped into Harrington Hall almost unnoticed, through open nursery windows and the smell of damp earth in the garden. Snowdrop stems pushed up along the gravel paths. The air lost its sharp edge. Emily felt it most in the children. Henry grew out of his boots in a single month. Charlotte lost the last softness of a baby and darted about the lawn like a small, determined bird. There was more laughter now, fewer tears at night. One afternoon, Emily and the children stood by the pond, watching the first bold frog plop into the water. Henry threw pebbles, trying to make circles touch. Charlotte clung to Emily's hand, hopping in place. "Do we swim when it is warmer?" Charlotte asked, "like in the picture book." "In a proper pond, not this one," Emily said, smiling. "This one is muddy at the bottom. You would disappear entirely." Henry grinned. "Perhaps I should toss Nurse in when we get a new one," he said. "You will not," Emily said. "You will be a gentleman, Henry. Gentlemen do not toss people in ponds, no matter how tempted." "Papa used to be tossed in rivers when he was a boy," Henry said. "He told me so. Grandpapa's groom did it for a dare." Emily laughed. "Your papa was a terror, I am sure," she said. "Do not follow him in everything." Behind them, a voice answered quietly. "In some things, perhaps," Arthur said. "Not all." They turned. He stood a few paces away, hands clasped behind his back. No riding coat today, just a dark jacket, his hair touched by the breeze. Charlotte ran to him at once. "Papa Henry wants to drown Nurse," she announced. "I only said," Henry began. Arthur raised a brow. "I see I was wise to replace the last one," he said. "We must keep you away from ponds for the new one's sake." He glanced at Emily. "Mrs. Fletcher said you took the children outdoors whenever the sun appears," he said. "She approves. So do I." Emily dipped her head. "They are restless indoors," she said. "This does them good." "And you?" he asked. "Does it do you good, Miss Carter?" She hesitated. "Yes, my lord," she said. "It reminds me there is a world beyond laundry and lessons." "That is precisely why I came," he said lightly. "I have spent too many hours with ledgers of late. I needed reminding as well." The children returned to their stones and puddles. Arthur fell into step beside Emily as they walked along the path. "How go the new arrangements with the steward?" he asked. "Well, my lord," she said. "Mr. Jameson insists on double-checking every list. Cook complains he is slow, but she also says she sleeps easier." "Then he may be as slow as he likes," Arthur said. He watched Henry briefly, then lowered his voice. "And you? You have settled into your new responsibilities?" "I am learning," she said. "I still feel I am trespassing sometimes, between upstairs and down. No longer exactly one thing, not quite the other." "You are exactly what I need you to be," he said. She felt her cheeks warm. "You are kind," she said quickly, "but I am only a servant who meddled where others would not." "A servant who refused to look away," he said. "There is a difference." She did not know how to answer that, so she said nothing. He changed the subject, speaking of the vicar's plans for a new schoolroom in the village, of Henry's Latin, of Charlotte's stubborn refusal to learn the proper way to curtsy. They walked back to the house together, the children running ahead. It all felt almost ordinary. That was the strange part. Ordinary until the letter came. It arrived one rainy morning, mixed in with tradesmen's bills and invitations Arthur rarely accepted. Mrs. Fletcher brought it to Emily in the nursery. "A letter for you," the housekeeper said, sounding faintly surprised. "From Leeds." Emily wiped her hands on her apron before taking it. "Thank you," she said. Mrs. Fletcher nodded and left, closing the door behind her. Henry looked up from his copybook. "Who writes to you?" he asked. "No one important, I'm sure," Emily said, though her heart had begun to beat faster. She recognized the neat, slanted hand. The agency. She slit the seal carefully and unfolded the paper. "Miss Carter, we are pleased to hear of your vindication at Harrington Hall and of the trust your employer has placed in you regarding the care of the children. Your good name is fully restored in our records. A new opportunity has arisen, which we believe may suit your abilities. A respectable family in Northumberland seeks a governess for their 2 daughters, aged 8 and 10. The post offers better wages than your current position is likely to provide, as well as a more defined place within the household. If you are interested, please reply at once. Your reference from your current employer will naturally be of great importance. We remain, etc." Emily read it twice. Northumberland, a governess, a clear position, respectability, freedom from whispers. Her throat tightened. "Is it bad news?" Charlotte asked. Emily folded the letter quickly. "No," she said, "only something I must think about." She slipped the paper into her pocket and forced herself to attend to spelling and sums. But all day her fingers kept brushing against it. That night, after the children were asleep, she sat by the window in her small room and read it again. A governess. Higher wages. A chance to stand a little taller in a world that measured people by what they were called. But it would mean leaving Henry and Charlotte, and leaving this house, and leaving him. She flinched a little at her own thought. "Foolish," she murmured aloud. "You are foolish." She had no right to think of him that way. He was her employer, nothing more. Grateful, kinder now, perhaps even fond, but still a count, still a world above her. She thought of the servants' murmurs, the sideways looks when he spoke to her a little longer than usual, the crackling sense that they were watching something they did not yet dare name. "If you stay," she whispered to herself. "What happens when they begin to talk above stairs as well? When visitors see you speak with him, they will laugh at him, at the children, at you." It was one thing for a count to defend his maid. Entirely another to have that maid hovering at his elbow for years, attached to his children, to his house, to his daily life. He had already risked his reputation for her once. She could not be the cause of more risk. The letter lay on her lap. The rain tapped against the window. Slowly she reached for pen and paper. "Sir," she wrote to the agency, "I am grateful for the opportunity you describe. I would like to present myself as a candidate for the governess position you mention. I will speak to my employer at once and request his reference should he deem it fitting." Her hand trembled as she signed her name. The next morning she asked Mrs. Fletcher if she might have a few minutes with Arthur. "In private, if possible," she added. Mrs. Fletcher's brows lifted, but she only said, "I will inform his lordship. He is in the study." Emily waited outside the heavy door until she heard his voice. "Come in." He looked up as she entered, his hand still on a stack of letters. "Emily," he said, "is something amiss? Are the children—" "They are perfectly well, my lord," she said quickly. "This is about me." He sat back. "That sounds ominous," he said lightly. "What have you broken?" "Nothing," she said. "Only, perhaps the quiet way things have been." He gestured to the chair opposite. "Sit," he said. "Tell me." She obeyed, feeling very much the maid again, despite her new duties. "I received a letter from the agency," she said. "In Leeds. They wrote to inform me that my name is cleared in their books, and to tell me of a position. They thought I might be suited." His expression shifted. "What sort of position?" he asked. "A governess," she said. In Northumberland. 2 young ladies. Better wages. A more defined role. I see, he said. And what did you tell them? That I would speak to you, she said, and ask if you would consider giving me a reference. If you feel I deserve one. He was silent for a moment. Do you wish to go? He asked at last. The question hit her like a blow. I do not know what I wish, she said honestly. My heart says one thing, my sense says another. I know I cannot presume to stay here forever. Children grow, arrangements change. And you think this is the right moment to leave them, he said. I think, she said carefully, that I may be in the way if I stay. People talk, my lord. They see how often we speak. They see how the children cling to me. It might be harmless now, but as they grow older, as you take your place more often in society again, I would not have my presence cause harm to their reputation, or to yours. Understanding dawned in his eyes. So this is not only about wages and titles, he said. No, she admitted. If it were only that, I would ignore the letter. I am content here, more than content. But I must think of what is proper. I have already been a subject of gossip once in my life. I will not be again if I can prevent it, and I will not be the cause of gossip for you. He leaned back, hand against his mouth. You care very much about what is proper, he said quietly, even at the cost of your own happiness. She almost flinched at the word, but said nothing. He lowered his hand. I will not forbid you, he said. You are not a prisoner here. If you wish to pursue this post, I will write the best reference I can. You deserve it. You have more than earned it. The words were like a door closing and a kindness at once. Thank you, my lord, she said. I did not expect... You are very generous. I am not, he said. I am simply trying not to be selfish. He stood abruptly and moved toward the window, as if he needed the distance. The back of his shoulders looked tense. When must you answer? He asked. They asked for a reply at once, she said. But I can delay a few days if you need time. He shook his head. No, he said. Do not delay on my account. Write as you think best. I will prepare your reference. She rose. I am grateful, she said again. Truly. Whatever happens, I will not forget what you did for me here. I suspect, he said, his voice low, that it is what you did for us that will be remembered longer. She had no answer that would not betray her. She curtsied and left. When the door closed behind her, Arthur let out a breath he had not realized he was holding. He stood at the window, looking out at nothing. So, she was going. It was the sensible thing, the safe thing, the kind of decision he had been raised to admire. Measured, proper, unquestionable. He found he hated it. He saw the last months in quick flashes. Emily with Charlotte's head on her lap. Emily showing Henry how to tie a knot. Emily standing in the main hall as he cleared her name. Emily in the garden, smiling at some foolish comment. He should have anticipated this. A woman like her could not remain suspended between upstairs and down forever. People would tug at her from both sides, so would opportunity. He had known on some level that the balance could not last. Then why does it feel, he muttered, as if the floor has given way? The children found out 2 days later. Emily had not intended to tell them so soon. She wanted to wait until things were certain, until the agency had replied again. But news travelled strangely in big houses. A maid overheard a scrap of conversation. A footman mentioned Miss Carter's new post while polishing boots. Nurse, sharper than most gave her credit for, pieced it together. Henry burst into the nursery late in the afternoon, cheeks flushed. Is it true? He demanded. Are you leaving? Emily's heart sank. Who told you? She asked. He ignored the question. Answer, he said. Are you going away? Charlotte stood behind him, eyes huge. Emily set aside the mending she had been doing. Come sit, she said. They did not sit. They stared. She folded her hands to keep them still. I have been offered a position, she said, as a governess, in another county. Then say no, Henry said. It is not so simple, she said gently. It is a very good opportunity. It would give me security, a future. You know I am not like your papa. I have no estate, no family to fall back on. We are your family, Charlotte burst out. Emily's throat tightened. You are very dear to me, she said softly. You know that. Henry's jaw worked. Does Papa know? He asked. Yes, she said. I spoke to him. He has agreed to give me a reference. Henry turned on his heel. Then I shall speak to him, he said. He cannot give you away like a book he has finished reading. Henry, Emily said, rising. Do not speak to him in anger. It is not his doing. But Henry was already at the door. Charlotte grabbed Emily's hand. Do not go, she whispered. Please do not go. I will be very good. I will eat porridge without complaint. I will even let nurse brush my hair. Emily knelt and hugged her. Oh, Charlotte, she said. If it were only a matter of porridge and hair, I would stay until you were an old lady with grey curls. Charlotte gave a wet laugh. Then what is it a matter of? Of what the world expects, Emily said. Of how it looks when a maid remains always at a gentleman's side. I do not want people to be cruel to your father. They can be, you know. They whisper, they point, they make jokes. He has endured enough. Charlotte pulled back, frowning. But what about you? She asked. Does the world never think of you? Emily smiled sadly. Not often, she said. That is why I must think for myself. Charlotte looked at her for a long moment, then slid off her lap. I shall speak to Papa too, she said. If he insists on being noble, I shall be stubborn. She ran after her brother. Downstairs, Henry did not bother with proper manners. He flung open the study door without knocking. Papa, he cried. Arthur looked up, startled. Henry, he said, has the house caught fire? No, but it might as well have, Henry said. You are letting Emily go. Arthur's mouth twitched despite himself. I see you have heard, he said. Charlotte slipped in behind her brother, breathless. You cannot let her, she declared. We forbid it. Arthur leaned back in his chair. You forbid it, he repeated. Yes, Henry said. You told us this house must be ruled from above, not below. Very well. We are the children. We are above Emily. We forbid it. Arthur almost laughed, then saw the shine in his son's eyes. Come here, he said. They came reluctantly, as if fearing a scold. He rested a hand on each of their shoulders. I cannot keep Emily a prisoner, he said. She has been offered a worthy post. She has a right to choose. But why does she choose to go? Charlotte asked. Does she not like us? She loves you, he said, without thinking. They both froze. She has never said so, Henry whispered. She should not have to, Arthur said. You can see it. She believes this is what is best. For her. For us. For me. Henry scowled. Is it what you believe? He asked. The question hit harder than he liked. Arthur began, then paused. He could lie. It would be easy. He could say yes, it was for the best, and send her away and spend the rest of his life with quiet, correct regret. He looked into his son's eyes, then his daughter's. He heard Emily's voice in his memory. For your children's sake. For your late lady. No, he said slowly. I do not believe it is best. Henry's hand tightened on the desk. Then stop her, he said. You are the master. You can do anything. Arthur smiled faintly. Not quite anything, he said. I cannot command someone's heart. You can tell her she is wanted, Charlotte said fiercely. Sometimes that is all people need. Her small wisdom made him catch his breath. I will speak to her, he said at last. Properly, not only as her employer, as something else. Henry sniffed. You had better do it quickly, he said, before she puts all her folded dresses in that horrid trunk. I will, Arthur said. The opportunity came sooner than he expected. That evening, after the children were in bed, he sent a message asking Emily to meet him in the small drawing room. It was a room he had avoided for years. Rose had liked it. She used to sit there in the afternoons with her sewing, the French windows open to the garden. Since her death, he had walked past its door as if it were part of a different life. Tonight, for the first time, he lit the lamps and drew the curtains himself. Emily entered quietly, closing the door behind her. My lord, she said, Mrs. Fletcher said you wished to see me. Yes, he said. Thank you for coming. She stood near the door, hands clasped. You need not be nervous, he said. You are not in trouble. That is a relief, she said, trying to smile. He gestured to the sofa. Will you sit? He asked. She hesitated. If you wish it, she said. He waited until she had sat, then took a chair across from her, not behind a desk this time. There was no barrier between them but a low table and the distance he had always maintained. He found he did not want that distance anymore. "I have received a reply from the agency," he began. She straightened. "So soon?" she asked. "Yes," he said. "They are eager. The family in Northumberland is keen to secure a governess quickly. They ask for my reference." Her hands twisted slightly in her lap. "I see," she said. "That is efficient of them." "I wrote the reference," he said. "I told the truth, that you are honest, diligent, steady, good with children, braver than most." She flushed. "You should not exaggerate on my account," she said. "I did not," he said. "If anything, I restrained myself." She looked down. "Thank you," she murmured. He leaned forward. "But I have not sent it yet," he said. Her eyes lifted. "You have not?" she asked. "No," he said, "because there is something I must ask you first. Not as your employer, as Arthur Harrington, as a man who owes you more than he can easily say." Her breath caught. "My lord—" "Emily," he said quietly, "please. For this moment, let us set aside titles." She stared at him, clearly uncertain. "I do not know how to call you anything else," she whispered. "Then humor me," he said. "Just once. Arthur." The word lodged in her throat. She forced it out, barely audible. "Arthur," she said. Something in him eased at the sound. "Thank you," he said. He drew a breath. "I have been thinking a great deal since you spoke to me in the study," he said. "About propriety, about talk, about what is expected of men in my position, about what is expected of women in yours." She clasped her hands more tightly. "I meant no criticism," she said quickly, "only—" "You were right to speak," he said. "You have been right more often than I cared to admit. You were right about the children, about the accounts, about the danger of leaving too much in the hands of people who talk of duty and mean advantage. I am tired of being right in the way the world prefers and wrong where it matters most." She swallowed. "What are you trying to say?" she asked softly. "I am trying to say," he replied, "that when you spoke of leaving for my sake, for the children's sake, something in me rebelled. Not because I wished to chain you here as a servant, but because the thought of this house without you felt—" He exhaled. "Empty. Colorless. Wrong." Her eyes widened. He went on. "I told myself it was only gratitude, or habit, or concern for the children. Those are all true, but they are not the whole truth. The whole truth is that somewhere between the day I walked into the servants' hall intending to dismiss you and the day I stood in this hall clearing your name, my heart changed." She opened her mouth, then closed it again. "You have put it back in order," he said. "You have put my house back in order. You have stood between my children and neglect, between my estate and ruin, between me and the man I might have become if no one had dared to contradict me. I cannot pretend that I feel only duty toward you. It is more than that." Her voice was barely a breath. "What is it then?" she asked. He held her gaze. "I love you," he said. "Not as a master loves a loyal servant, not as a father grateful for a nurse, as a man loves the woman who has shown him his own heart and not turned away from it." Silence fell. The lamps hummed faintly. Somewhere in the house, a clock ticked. Emily stared at him as if she had not heard correctly. "You love me," she repeated. "Yes," he said. She shook her head slightly. "You must not," she whispered. "I am nobody. A maid, the daughter of a laborer. People will laugh." "Let them," he said. "I have listened to whispers my whole life. They did not prevent my wife from dying, nor my children from going hungry, nor my accounts from being plundered. I think I can bear them while I live honestly with the woman I have chosen." Tears shone in her eyes. "You chose Rose," she said. "She was a lady. She knew this world. She moved in it with grace. I would only stumble." His face softened at the mention of his late wife. "I did love Rose," he said quietly. "I will always be grateful for what she gave me. Henry, Charlotte, years of kindness. Her memory does not dim because my heart has found room for more. She feared the very people who hurt this house. I failed her then. Perhaps this is one way I can honor her now, by choosing someone she would have trusted." "You think she would have trusted me?" Emily asked. "Rose," he said, "would have adored you." Emily pressed her hand to her mouth. "This is madness," she whispered. "Count marrying his maid. The county will never stop talking of it." Then we shall give them something worthy to talk about, he said, a faint smile touching his mouth. They may say I have broken custom. Let them also say I have gained a wife who can see straight when others are dazzled by rank. She dropped her hand. You speak as if this is simple, she said, as if there are no obstacles. But what of your children? What of their place? What of the staff? Will they obey me or resent me? Henry and Charlotte already love you, he said. As for their place, it is secured by law and by my will. No one can take that from them. As for the staff, some will grumble, others will cheer. Cook will puff up like a proud hen. Mrs. Fletcher will tighten the household schedule to distract herself. They will adjust. People do when one gives them no choice. A faint, startled laugh escaped her. And you? She asked. I will adjust too, he said, to having someone tell me when I am wrong without fear, to sharing this house not with a ghost, but with a living woman who knows how to turn even scraps into nourishment. She looked down at her hands. What are you asking me, Arthur? She said quietly. He rose and came around the table, stopping a respectful distance from her. I am asking, he said, if you will marry me. Become my wife, the children's mother in truth, not just in practice, the mistress of this house, not as a favor, not from gratitude, but because you choose it. She stared at her fingers. Her voice shook. I love you, she said. I did not mean to. I tried not to. It is not wise to love across so many steps. But I do. When you walk into a room, it feels different. When you listen to the children, I feel proud, as if I had helped teach you how. When you say my name, I feel as if I belong somewhere at last. He closed his eyes briefly, then opened them. Then say yes, he murmured. She looked up at him, tears spilling over. I am afraid, she confessed, of what people will say, of failing, of wanting too much. Do you trust me? He asked. Yes, she said without hesitation. Do you trust your own strength? He pressed. She thought of all she had done in the past year, of standing up to Mrs. Whitfield, of facing the entire staff as a suspected thief, of feeding hungry children in secret. Yes, she said slowly, I suppose I must. He held out his hand, not touching her, but offering. Then we will face it together, he said. We will endure gossip together. We will learn together. We will raise our children together. I do not promise it will always be easy, only that you will never face it alone. Her gaze dropped to his hand. It was a simple hand, not adorned, strong, slightly ink-stained from ledgers, scarred faintly from old boyhood scrapes. She lifted her own and placed it in his. Yes, she whispered. I will marry you. He let out a breath that sounded almost like a laugh and almost like a sob. Thank you, he said. He brought her hand to his lips and kissed it, gently, as if she were the finest lady in London. She trembled. Will you send the reference to Northumberland now? She asked, attempting lightness. No, he said. I will write them instead to say that Miss Emily Carter is regrettably unavailable. She is to be Countess of Harrington, and I cannot spare her. She laughed through her tears. You make it sound so grand, she said. Countess, I shall break all the teacups from nervousness. I will buy more, he said. They stood like that for a moment, hands joined, the past and the future hovering together. When he walked her back to the servants' corridor, she hesitated outside her door. How shall we tell the children? She asked. He smiled. I suspect they already know, he said, but we will say the words in the morning. Let them rejoice properly. And the staff? She asked. He sobered slightly. In good time, he said. We will announce it when arrangements are in place. I will speak first. Their opinions may swirl, but their obedience is not optional. She nodded. And the county? She added, almost mischievously. He chuckled. I will inform them as the occasion demands, he said, one fainting matron at a time. She laughed again, soft and free. Good night, Arthur, she said. Good night, Emily, he replied. The next morning at breakfast, Henry and Charlotte bounced on their chairs as if sitting on springs. You look as if you have swallowed frogs, Arthur remarked. Papa, we have a question, Henry blurted, a very important one. Arthur sipped his coffee. Ask, he said. Are you going to marry Emily? Charlotte demanded. Arthur nearly choked. How did you? He began. She came back from seeing you last night with red eyes and smiling, Charlotte said. No one smiles with red eyes unless something very big has happened. Also, Henry added, You have been looking at her as if you have a secret for weeks. It is annoying. We are children, not furniture. We notice things. Arthur set down his cup, defeated. Yes, he said. I have asked her to marry me. She has agreed. Charlotte shrieked with delight and flung her arms around his neck. I knew it, she cried. I knew it, I knew it, I knew it. Henry's eyes shone. Does that mean we may call her Mama? He asked, suddenly shy. Arthur's throat tightened. If she is willing, he said, I see no reason you should not. Emily stepped into the doorway at that moment, a tray in her hands, having been told only that the children wanted breakfast in the morning room. She froze. Henry spun toward her. Emily, no, that will not do, he said. Mama. The tray wobbled. Arthur leaped up and took it from her hands. Careful, he said. She stared at Henry. Henry, she said slowly, that is a very large word. You must not use it lightly. I am using it accurately, he said. Papa said we could if you agree. Do you agree? Her eyes met Arthur's over the children's heads. He nodded once, a question and an answer both. She looked back at Henry and Charlotte, at their eager faces, at the hope that had lived in them since the day she gave them forbidden stew in a servants' hall. Yes, she whispered, if you wish. I would be honored. Charlotte hurled herself at her, nearly knocking her over. Henry followed more quietly, wrapping his arms around both. Arthur watched them, his chest full. The wedding was small. There was no grand London ceremony, no crowd of jostling aristocrats, just the children beaming in new clothes, Mrs. Fletcher, cook, James, and a few other trusted servants, the vicar from the village, and a handful of neighbours who had watched Harrington Hall through its changes and decided they preferred justice to gossip. Emily walked up the short aisle of the village church on no one's arm. She had no father or brother to give her away. She thought for a moment that she might feel exposed. Then she saw Arthur waiting at the front, Henry at his side, Charlotte clutching a small bouquet of wildflowers, and the feeling vanished. As she reached him, Arthur offered his hand. She took it. The vicar's words flowed over them. Do you, Arthur Harrington, take this woman. Do you, Emily Carter. Take this man. I do, they each said. When it was done, when the ring sat on her finger and the simple veil had been lifted, Arthur leaned close and said softly, Welcome home. She smiled up at him. I have been home for some time, she said. I just did not know it. They returned to Harrington Hall, not as master and maid, not as protector and protected, but as husband and wife. The staff lined the hall as they entered. Some looked astonished, some delighted. Cook wept openly. Mrs. Fletcher inclined her head with quiet approval. Even the new steward smiled, shy and earnest. Her ladyship, someone whispered, and Emily almost turned to look behind her before realizing they meant her. She met their eyes one by one and smiled. I hope, she said, voice carrying just enough, that you will continue to tell me when I am wrong. It seems to have done this house some good. A soft ripple of laughter moved through the servants. Arthur laughed too. Be careful what you invite, he murmured. She turned to him. I have never been careful, she said. Not where hungry children and stubborn men are concerned. He took her hand and squeezed it. Years later, people would still tell the story in the village, how the Count went to dismiss his maid and found his children eating from her pot instead. How that moment pulled a thread that unwove lies and stitched together something new. How a girl with nothing but courage and a steady heart became a countess. Not by pretending to be someone else, but by insisting that kindness mattered more than custom. In quiet evenings, when Henry pored over books in preparation for school and Charlotte practiced her writing at a little desk, Arthur and Emily would sit side by the fire. Sometimes they spoke of the past. Sometimes they planned the future. Sometimes they said nothing at all, content in the simple miracle of a house that had once been cold, now warmed by more than coal. If anyone had told Arthur Harrington, on the day he strode toward the servants' hall with dismissal on his lips, that he was walking toward the woman who would teach him how to be a better father, a better master, a better man, he would have called it nonsense. And yet, in the end, it was exactly what had happened. Because once in a house full of rules and silence, a maid had looked at two hungry children and chosen to act. And from that choice came truth. From truth, trust. And from trust, a love that did not ask permission from the world, but quietly, steadily, remade it within the walls of Harrington Hall. Thank you so much for listening to this story all the way to the end. We hope it moved you as much as it moved us while telling it. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave us a comment telling us where you're listening from and what you liked the most. Rate this story from 0 to 10. What score would you give it? If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like as a show of support. That really motivates us to keep creating and sharing more stories full of emotion and life lessons. And before we go, we want to remind you that an exciting and heartwarming story recommendation will appear on the final screen. If you'd like to enjoy it, just click on the video. Thank you once again for being here, and we'll see you in the next story.